Hello everyone and welcome back to Different Beat. I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Tim.
And today we will be covering DMC Devil May Cry Definitive Edition as on the lead up to the release of the special edition for Devil May Cry 4.
Oh yeah.
Which is something I'm very excited about, but that will be saved for another time. Given the biased and negative opinion that was out there for a lot of DMC fans, having this release that was more focused on the core and really listening to the feedback that Ninja Theory did and moving up to 60 frames and the new modes and everything, we thought it'd be a great time to really cover it, as it seems that more people are being willing to give it a chance and really get into the game, where in the past, because of the issues with the development team and more how it was presented to us, especially people like me who are fans of the original franchise up to 4, it kind of pushed us away, and this has given it a new breath, a new life, and so we really wanted to dig into it and really give it a fair shake.
Absolutely. Yeah, the thing about this Devil May Cry remake, or DMC as they're calling it, is I have to say, when I first heard about this in the making, and I still remember it to this day, when I saw that concept art of the new Dante, I was like, hell no. I will not play this game because Dante looks like some super emo guy who is just nothing like nothing like the original Dante, and I want nothing to do with that. And so I actually avoided DMC until the PS4 remake launched, and I decided, I heard some good things. It got, really good reviews, and I was like, let's give this a shot.
The thing with Devil May Cry is I actually played it on the PC, so this isn't the first chance I've had to experience the 60 frames. But even though I was willing to give it a chance, it always kind of had a bad taste in my mouth because of Tomanine, one of the producers over at Ninja Theory, and Capcom pretty much came out and provoked the fan base, and they really created a negative, blockade. Even though they came out and they're like, there was a redesign, and it was Unreal Engine 3, which on PS3 and 360 had trouble getting above 30 frames, and the franchise was used to 60. So they poisoned the well right up front. So, again, it left this really negative impression, even if we divorce it from the redesign. And it was just like, in Itsuno, the director came out and was like, the feel of 60 frames per second. And to anyone that played Devil May Cry 3, or 4 especially, and experienced Devil May Cry at 60 frames per second, having the director of those games come out and say it was like a real slap in the face. So I'm glad that I gave it yet another shot, because it is actually a very good game, but that's kind of where my positivity ends.
So, Devil May Cry DMC reboot. I'm going to start off with the world that the game takes place in. I like a lot. And the reason I say that is because, like, in the original Devil May Cry, it was really cool too back in the day. I mean, essentially you have, opening cutscene, you end up on some island, and you're in this castle property with monsters, demons, whatever, and you start hacking things up. What I really liked about this game is how it drew those clear lines between the paranormal and reality, and I really liked that, because in the first one it was just insinuated that demons pop up out of the ground everywhere. And in DMC they do, but most of the time, that's not until the end. Most of the time you get dragged into limbo, which is this altered dimensional paranormal realm, which is where these things live, and I think that's really cool. I like this style. I like how broken up the world gets. It really creates for some unique platforming experiences. Although I will say this, don't you think it's kind of funny that every single action game you get a double jump in, it's always released to you as, oh, here's this helpful double jump that you can use to get over high obstacles. But then throughout the entire rest of the game, every jump is a double jump. It's like there's no single jumps left. Every jump requires a double jump. So it's almost like it's not a special ability anymore. If you have to use it that much, it's no longer special. That's how you jump now. Well, anyway, that's a tangent. I digress. I just thought that was funny because that was one thing that really stuck out with me.
I did not know he was going there.
I'm just saying that because, like, when I played the game, that really stood out to me. And then when it stood out to me, I realized this isn't the only game that does that. It's just for some reason it really, like, struck a nerve this time. But anyway, that aside,
Weird aside, believe me. I had no idea.
So the platforming, I think, in the game is really cool. It does offer some challenging points, almost to the point of like ridiculous at times, but those segments are usually really small and not drawn out too bad, so it makes it pretty cool. I really thought that the world design got even better in the Virgil's Descent DLC extra content for this version, because it started to introduce some of those really cool world elements like Super Mario Galaxy had, where it's like gravity is constantly moving with you, so you're like upside down from where you were, and you're like fighting upside down now, and it's like, that was pretty cool. I liked that a lot. Story-wise, I mean, it's not going to win any awards for writing, I don't think. It's not great, but it was entertaining enough. I sort of liked the... Now, I'm going to admit, I've played Devil May Cry 1 and 2 originally. 2 was so bad that it sort of killed me for the franchise. And only later, in the last couple years, I've really wanted to go back and finish it, because I hear 3 and 4 are just way better. But I still had that love of DMC1 Dante, which is why I really hated this redesigned Dante at first. I liked the relationship between Dante and Virgil. I thought that was pretty cool. My wife criticized me to no end because she was watching me play the end. And, you know, that twist that happens at the end, I did not see it coming. I was like, oh, damn. And my wife is like, how did you not expect that to happen? And honestly, I don't know, but I was totally caught off guard. So, I mean... that says something, I guess. Either I'm an idiot or, you know, they presented their relationship well enough. I mean, they had their differences, but I really liked the characters of Dante and Virgil. At first, I didn't want to like Dante, because he just seemed like that really annoying rebellion. You know, not like rebellious like I've had a bad life, but rebellious like I'm just trying to be rebellious for the sake of being rebellious. But as you see him, like, see those, like, responsible protector... even compassion sides of him come out through the story, it started to sort of balance out that rebellious side, and you started to see that, you know, he's not just that person. You know, he's actually more balanced than you think, but he is very prone to those extreme emotions. And so, I don't know, I liked it. I definitely liked how his hair turns white towards the end of the game, because that sort of definitely leads back to the original classic Dante, who had platinum hair, you know? And so this whole black-haired Dante thing was kind of weird, but as the story goes on, he gets more powerful and his hair turns white. I'm like, oh, I see what they're doing now. I like this, okay. So it's almost like they're turning him back into classic Dante, which I like a lot. Only this time we get Dante with context, as opposed to just DMC1 Dante kicking his feet up on the desk, making wisecrack remarks, which was still cool back then, but I don't think that sort of Dante, like if I was being reintroduced to DMC1 now, like at 30 years old, I'd probably be like, this guy is kind of an idiot. Now, you know, granted, I might change my mind had I, you know, played through the games until 2, which I will never play again. But anyhow, you get what I'm saying. So mechanics-wise, I agree with you. The 60 frames per second makes a big difference here. The combat is nice. I mean, DMC combat I've always really, really loved. It's like even in 2, which was a terrible game, the combat was still good. That's always been the premier experience of a Devil May Cry game for me. I love just how much variety is in the combat and how fast-paced it is. And in this case, I loved how smooth it ran. It was just wonderful. It really felt good to juggle the enemies and use the power attacks. I loved the teleport pull them towards you, or when you use Dante's like whip thing to pull them towards you and then only to pick them up and juggle them again. It was just a lot of fun. I really think the combat was very, very well done.
Okay, so now we're going to hear the other side of this equation.
You could have jumped in at any point.
I know, but I wanted you to be able to express these feelings, because I'm going to be the exact opposite.
All right, I thought
the story was incredibly cliche, borderline on garbage. Dante and Virgil. Dante actually is a lot better than I thought he would be, but he was still a very mediocre character. The fuck yous, the I got a bigger cock. All these things.
Virgil is the one who said he had a bigger cock.
My point is, they banter in this way, and I thought it was really awful. I didn't like it at all. I thought the ending twist was the biggest ass pull I've ever seen. Virgil at no point, outside of maybe kind of being a little old towards Cat, would have been a villain. It seemed like they knew Virgil was a villain in DMC 3. They had to make him be the opposite of Dante. So, like, alright, Virgil's the villain now because the Mundus is out of the way. Whereas if they were going to go that way, they should have waited for a DMC 2 instead of forcing it at the end of DMC.
I can kind of agree with that.
The combat, it is good. It is a very good action game. It's even a decent Devil May Cry game. I don't have the high feelings my co-host here does, especially because
That's cold.
a lot
I'm not only
of
your
aspects,
best friend, I'm your co-host now. God.
Especially because a lot of the aspects that he actually finds to be enjoyable and unique, especially the things that he just mentioned, the pull, are elements that they took directly from Devil May Cry and Nero's Devil Bringer.
How is that bad, though?
But my point is, it wasn't refreshing or unique for me. These were elements that have already been done, and they've been done in a much better way. The combat style in Devil May Cry 4 with Nero is already actually very similar to how we saw Dante actually fight in DMC. The only problem is Dante in DMC does not have the complexity, the 4 styles that we see Dante in Devil May Cry 4 have. And my personal favorite combat is Devil May Cry 4, switching between Darkslayer and all the various weapons and modes that Dante has. So going into DMC Devil May Cry, it just really left me wanting. And the uniqueness that Tim here felt, and that some players felt...
I'm glad I'm Tim again, thank you.
Well, it was lost on me to a point where it was like, it feels good, but it doesn't feel good enough. It's like, especially because with the pull that the devil arms have and the angel arms have in DMC, you lose a lot of the context-sensitive applications that Nero has, the counters that he has on certain bosses, the grabs. I mean, he even has Zangief's Ultra from Street Fighter 4 as one of his moves with the Devil Bringer. And I really missed a lot of that when playing DMC. So I can say it is a good game. And I actually, at the end of this video, as much as I'm ranting against it, I will recommend people play it because it is good.
Spoiler alert.
It really left me wanting the duality of Nero and Dante from Devil May Cry 4 because that is the game I played most last generation. It is probably the deepest combat engine I've ever seen or experienced. And DMC Devil May Cry just is a step back. So I didn't get as much out of it. Lastly, one of the things that you touched on, and I want to touch on, is I actually think Dante is not as a well-rounded character in the Devil May Cry standard universe as he is in DMC. And I'll actually give him that. But the thing is, even though DMC Devil May Cry Dante is more well-rounded, he's not as likable. Uncle Dante from DMC 4, you know, the dance with the rose, the play, the fact that it's like he knows this is a video game, and that he's a playable character. The enjoyment that he has is better.
You're
than
right,
anything.
but I think that DMC Dante could become that because if you look at it, we start out in the Devil May Cry 1 universe with Dante already self-realized, already having his white hair.
But the problem is, you
now
don't
we have
understand
angsty
something.
Dante who's growing up, and he probably will have fun with it, or he might anyway. That is an assumption that I'm drawing.
And see, that's the problem. DMC 3 and DMC 4 Dante really are not DMC 1 Dante.
Okay.
The directors Itsuno and Kamina are...
Well, DMC 2 Dante was dark and foreboding.
But again, DMC 2 wasn't even meant to be a Devil May Cry game. They brought in Itsuno at the end and forced it to be because there was problems with it. Okay. But DMC 3 Dante, DMC 4 Dante are actually a very different character than is presented in Devil May Cry 1. These are guys that have fun. They don't fill your dark soul with light. And DMC 4 Dante, while he doesn't specifically break the fourth wall, he goes in, he fights Nero, and he's like, you know what? I am so strong that anything in this game does not matter. You can hit me with everything, and I'm going to get up, and I'm going to have fun with you anyways. Because this is what I am.
So he goes MGS4 riding mode, huh?
Except he's enjoyable. It's like...
Oh, yeah, that is the big difference there.
That is.
Yeah, all right, go ahead.
But my point is, I like the fun-loving, I like the fact that it's like, he realizes he's the playable character. He realizes that he is the fan favorite. He exudes that. I mean, he lives it up. In that facet. And DMC Devil May Cry Dante will never be this because he is a character that is a part of a universe and going to be its protector. I mean, he is the hero role, whereas Devil May Cry Dante now is the playable character.
See, I wouldn't rule it out entirely, but it probably won't get there, but I think it'll probably gravitate more that direction than it is right now, is what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, yeah, he could lighten up. I mean, it's possible.
An angsty teenager. Yeah, in DMC he might be like 19, you know, but he's going to grow up and he's going to probably change, you know, especially now with his experiences that he's had in this game. I'm saying he might become more like
and I'm saying that's not impossible. Regressing from that,
yeah,
for me personally, is a negative because it is so enjoyable.
It is a reboot. I mean, you have to look at it as this game is not going to be that Dante was 4 games into a series, Dante. This is a fresh reboot of him as a kid.
Yes, but that doesn't matter. Even Devil May Cry 3...
I get that you like what you like. The flavor you like is the flavor you like.
But your argument doesn't even work. Because 1 game ago was Devil May Cry 3 is DMC Devil May Cry. It's him getting his powers for the first time, meeting Virgil for the first time. It's all of these things that you're talking about. It's like, it's a reboot, you gotta give it this. Devil May Cry 3 is literally the exact same thing Devil May Cry is, except with Devil May Cry 4 Dante.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, it has all the elements you're talking about. The beginning of the storyline, the 19-year-old Dante, never having Devil Trigger, learning about these, meeting Virgil. It has all the exact same story beats.
Okay, well, like I said, I haven't played Devil May Cry 3 except for like up until the first major boss, so I missed a lot of that.
Yes, but that's my point. It's like, I don't agree with it being a reboot, so it can't have that. Because we had the reboot, we had the prequel, and it had that.
So I will withdraw that argument then, based on my lack of experience of Devil May Cry 3. But either way, I still enjoyed the DMC reboot.
I think anyone that says DMC Devil May Cry is a great game, amazing game, I don't really have an argument against that. What I have is
you just gave a lot of arguments against that.
But my thing is, my personal taste is such that I disagree with it on a personal level, but not on a mechanics level. Gotcha. It's like, everything that someone would like, this is a great game for these reasons. The only one I'd really argue against is that the writing is good. Because I actually think the writing is childish and really annoying in a lot of aspects. The only thing I liked was the relationship between Dante and Kat, which actually did have a nice progression in the way he feels about her. And it was nice.
Well, but the rest sort of pulled him out of his shell a little bit.
But the rest of the writing, especially the moments shared between Dante and Virgil, were cringe-inducing. It's like, you said you liked them. It's like, anytime they're in proximity of one another, I hated them.
I liked how different they were. It's like, you know, Virgil was this responsible, militaristic, like, leader with a plan, and Dante was this flippant, rebellious, I don't give 2 shits about nothing kind of guy. And so it's like, they were happy that they had found each other, but they butted heads a lot. Even subtly, like, there was never, like, a big confrontation until later on in the game when, you know, Kat gets abducted, and that's when they really started butting heads. But before that, you could kind of always tell their personalities clashed a lot, but they were still cool with each other, because they're like, you know, hey, this is cool, we found each other again, we're brothers. And so it's like, I sort of liked that relationship. They were very 2 different characters, and they could get along up until this one story moment just completely ripped them apart. And sort of how at the end there, when Dante learns about Virgil's intentions, and that was really it. He was like, this is not happening. And even Kat was surprised by that. I mean, Virgil had never made those intentions known to anybody. And so I just sort of, I sort of like that, the interaction throughout the story between Dante and Virgil. I thought, and I do know that moment you're talking about, when it's like right before the Mundus battle, and they're sort of bantering back and forth as they help each other progress through the tower.
Dante, I'm hotter, I have a bigger cock. I was like, really? We're going there?
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
It was.
But at the same time, you could almost see 2, like, brothers doing that. Especially because of the passive-aggressive hostility there. Because at that point, they were butting heads, and they were starting to not like each other. And so it was like, even though it was done under the guise of ha-ha, playful jabs, they were both really, like... There was a lot of, like, even though it was come off as playful, there was a lot of actual jabs at one another right there. Like, oh, yeah, you think you're great? Well, I'm this great, and then I'm that great. And yeah, Virgil got the last word in the most petty, cringing way possible. But it's like you could still... But at the same time, it was almost well done because of Dante's promiscuity. It was almost still like you pride yourself in being this ladies' man. Well, I even trump you in that area. So when you look at it from that respect, you can almost see that it's like the ultimate blow to Dante because, you know, of who he is at the start of the game. But it's still crass and kind of unneeded and could have been written better. But I get what they were trying to do there. It just... yeah, I know, I do agree with you there. But the rest of their relationship and development, I thought was just fine. I thought it was really well done, and it was made for Virgil to be an enjoyable character up until the end, and it made for Dante. He sort of helped and challenged Dante to grow and form his own opinions, you know, and actually start to care about the cause. So that was pretty cool, I thought.
Yeah, and see,
I'll stand by that.
A part of me, one of the reasons why I didn't like Dante and Virgil as much is because they didn't have their Devil May Cry voice actors. I thought they picked the perfect voice actors for Dante and Virgil in the original franchise. And while it was a good thing to switch them out so that help give them that new identity, not having them there hurt them for me. So that's one of the issues I did have with them. One story beat I do have to say is pure garbage. Is the need to force in... they can't just be half demon. They had to add in the half angel and the Nephilim nonsense. This is
that was for story-driven purposes.
No, yeah, you don't need that because they've been half demons forever. You can tell plenty of stories around that. You did not have to add in the cliche Nephilim garbage that is being forced in every story possible. Darksiders 2. All kinds of games are adding in the Nephilim shit. It's like, it's not needed. You can have one. You don't have to force in the other.
I'm not saying it has to be that way, but I don't think of it as a detriment in this.
Oh, I absolutely do. Having Eva just be a human and falling in love with Sparta and raising the two children. And it's like, Sparta didn't have to fall in love with an equal power. He fell in love with a human. Simple. It added
but that's
Sparta.
What makes... Okay, but in the context of the story of DMC, that's what makes them so powerful. It makes sense. What is the one thing strong enough to battle darkness and still stand against light if you need to? And it's the combination of two.
Yeah, but my point is...
They're stronger than all demons because they're half angel.
Yeah, but Dante was already stronger than all demons anyways, without needing to be half angel.
In the original universe.
Yes, but my point is you're saying they needed it for this.
No, I'm saying...
They don't need it at all.
I'm saying you can't say that in this world it just came out of... The way it's written, it makes sense.
No, but the thing is, it only makes sense
in original
chosen to make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
You do not have to have it be... He has to be half angel to equal.
You're right.
They could have just dropped it.
You're right.
But they forced in a half angel hybrid. I'm so sick of this retarded storyline because it's all it is. We need to have half good, half evil. Having Sparta fall in love with a human, nothing more than just a human, showed that even though he was a demon, he had a heart. He did not need to have an equal and opposite. It was just a human.
I get that, but it wasn't presented as the reason Virgil fell in love with her is because she was an equal.
Sparta, not Virgil.
Sparta, yeah, Sparta. It's not presented that way, though.
But my point is...
They were both cast out because they had this forbidden love, you know, and...
Yeah, but Evil was never cast out in the original. Evil just...
But that's the thing, it's a reboot. It doesn't have to pay that homage to the original.
And I'm not saying it does. I'm saying this story beat is tired. Okay. So many people are using the Nephilim. I've seen like 5 movies in the last 5 years I've used it. Multiple games,
You're
including
right.
action games.
It's a
tired
concept
and
now.
boring concept like Templars.
Okay,
and
I get
fucking
that.
sick of seeing it.
Okay,
that ruined it for me.
But I get what you're saying. It is a very commonly used theme in today's mediums and movies and shows and books and stuff like that. But I don't think that means that because it's been used other places, that now everywhere it's used, it has to be intrinsically bad. It can still be, it might be an overused trope, like, you know, explosive red barrels or some shit, which I'll never justify that. But what I'm saying is just because you have something that's bad, in most cases, doesn't mean it can't ever be good.
No,
because everything else about it.
You're absolutely right.
And I'm saying that in this case, because it's a reboot, because it divorces itself from the original lore, and in this case, the way it's written into the story is justified.
See, I don't find it justified at all. I just find it as an excuse to have an angelic weapon. An angelic weapon, which is a scythe. Which is like nonsense anyways. Because who in their right mind would say a scythe is an angelic weapon?
probably any sort of lore that makes Death the angel of death.
Yeah, but generally he's not considered an angel outside
In
of
most
one religion.
lores, he is an angel of death. I mean, he's dark, he's all white and happy and grants blessing, but he's the angel of death.
No, he's only
not a
like
demon
that
of
in
any
2
kind.
religions. He's usually the embodiment
I'm talking
of
about
death.
lores. I'm not talking about world religions. I'm talking about fictional lores. This is what we're discussing with this game. Is usually when death is brought into a story, he's the angel of death.
No,
and I mean,
most of the time he's not brought in as an angel.
I disagree.
He's brought in as the embodiment
Anyhow,
of death.
we're going off on a tangent here.
Anyways, I think adding angels to Dante and Virgil's heritage reduce the quality of them. Because they can be half demon. They didn't need to have added powers. They can specialize. I have the same problem when people are like, humans, you're the missing link. You're actually stronger than like all these
games,
it's like
where humans
Batman.
are actually like
Batman is better than Superman because he's got the human element. How about you fuck yourself and the human element?
Well, that may not be why I agree Batman is better than Superman, but I still agree Batman is better than Superman. That's for a number of different reasons.
Yeah, okay, I agree. I mean that isn't why,
reasons.
but I mean it's just I get sick and tired. It's like we don't need to be special. We don't need to be the epicenter. We can be weaker, and we can actually looking in.
This is also okay. This is a tangent.
No, I don't think it is.
Yes, it is.
No.
What about the
To
human
you,
element being stronger has to do with DMC?
Because my point is, they couldn't just let it specialize as one. It just couldn't be a demon protects. They had to add in angels to balance a demon, and I think it
Except for it
reduced
didn't
story
balance
quality.
it enhanced. They're a hybrid, making them stronger.
Yes.
It's not like they would be nothing without this angelic heritage. It's because of their angelic heritage that they are stronger than both. They are.
Yeah, I know, but my
hybrid.
point is, I think it reduces it to have an angelic balance out the demon.
Okay, and we've established that. That's fair. For that, I respect that. That's your opinion. So anyhow, back to rating DMC as an overall game. So I'm going to say that you know my opinions here. I think it's a good game. I will actually play the sequel when it comes out. I do also want to go back.
It's not going to get a sequel.
I hope it does at some point because
that game failed in sales and everywhere. I mean, it's climbing to 2 million, but it's not happening.
If it happens, I will play it. If it doesn't happen, then I think it's a good standalone game. And I enjoyed my time with it. I don't think it was a waste of gameplay time at all. I do also want to go back and play the other 2 that I've missed in the original Devil May Cry series, just because after getting a taste of that sweet-ass combat, I definitely want to play more of that action. So anyway, overall, I think it's a great game. If you're new to the franchise and don't have any past loyalties to the original Devil May Cry, then go ahead and play it, and you'll probably think it's a really cool game. I mean, it's fun, it's entertaining, it's paced really well. I mean, there are a couple long platforming segments, but still, when you get thrown into the fights are long enough that they feel great, but they're never too long where they feel exhausting. So overall, I think it's great. I'm actually going to go ahead and give this game a 3.5 stars. It's definitely got its problems. It's not some technical masterpiece, but an overall solid game. Definitely worth a play.
Okay, so mine is twofold, and I actually recommend it with some caveats. If you have a TV with mute, and you can shut off the cringe-inducing story, and completely ignore Dante for being the piece of shit that he is, actually get it. There's some great work there. The combat is smooth, it's flowing, and some of the chapters are done well. I disagree with the platforming being good, but I think that most platforming, unless it's a dedicated game, is kind of crap. So I would give it a solid 3 stars out of 5, so long as, like I said, you kind of ignore the story. And that's not coming from a Devil May Cry fan, that's just coming from someone who hates the story, period.
Alright, well, that is our very different thoughts on DMC Devil May Cry. So thank you for checking out our review. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more of our reviews, hear our thoughts on other games, we upload every Sunday. So go ahead and subscribe down there. Also, please feel free to leave your comments. Tell us what you thought about DMC, if you've played it, or if you want to play, and, well, if you think either one of us are full of garbage, because there's some very different opinions here. So anyway, our next video that we will be uploading next week is actually going to be a review of Mortal Kombat X. So we look forward to seeing you then. So once again, I'm Tim.
And I'm Elizabeth.
And thanks guys for tuning in.